Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Asatara Satasisi Madh His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paskacha Desatarni. Okay. So Hare Krishna, welcome to the Krishna Balaram Mandir's conference room. It's a very nice, comfortable place, huh? Too low? Okay, thank you. So we know this is Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, and we know, of course, maybe you know, of course, I won't be reading from the Lilamrita. We had, was it 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago? I gave class at this time. Was anyone here for that class? Do you remember what we were talking about? That makes two of us. No, I do remember what we were talking about. I came in and I said I was going to talk about two things. Prabhupada's schedule and Ayurvedic. Prabhupada's, how he followed Ayurvedic lifestyle. And as far as the schedule went, I don't think we got past the morning walk, practically. We just got into the morning walk and I was saying different things. So we'll continue with that for this little bit of time we have left. The morning was busy time. After, of course, we know Prabhupada went on his morning walk. His morning walk could consist of him chanting japa. Sometimes you wouldn't even know if he was chanting japa. He'd be completely quiet for 1 hour, 1.5 hours. He might not say anything. So then, of course, all of his disciples with him, they would be waiting for Prabhupada to speak. But to speak first, actually, Prabhupada says, you don't initiate speech, a conversation with your spiritual master. You don't try to initiate a conversation. And most devotees, they followed that process. Sometimes devotees would get a little eager and maybe they would ask a question or say something. But in general, it was kind of understood. If he doesn't say something, you just stay quiet. That was the safest thing to do. And other times there could be lively conversations. Sometimes when he was translating 5th canto, I just gave class on 5th canto this morning. He would talk to the devotees, ask questions, what the scientists say about the moon and the sun, different planets, things like that. So it could be very lively conversation. But you also had to know what you were talking about. with Srila Prabhupada. And so then after the morning walk, of course, he would come back and greet the deities. Just like here, we see we have deity greeting, right? Every day, 7:15. Right around 7:15, we greet the deities every day. But when Prabhupada was in the temple, the deity greeting may be 7:15, but the deity greeting was when Prabhupada arrived at the temple. And then, of course, he would go right into the temple room, and you would have deity greeting. So it may be 7:15, but he might show up 5 minutes after 7. So pujaris had to be ready. It was actually little anxiety. When Prabhupada was in the temple, anxiety was there. It was everything you wanted first class. I think even Dina Bandhu mentioned the other day, I've said many times, when I traveled with Prabhupada, every temple we went to smelt like paint. They had two smells. You smelt chaunces and paint. Because they would be painting right until Prabhupada was walking in the door. Someone was painting somewhere. That was, everything had to be ready. So paint was a very common smell in temples. So then he'd greet the deities. Then we would have Guru Puja, just like we have here. And then class. Srimad Bhagavatam class most of the time. It was always Srimad Bhagavatam class. And in some temples, they would even pick, just like we have the book, Prayers of Queen Kunti. They're all classes. Prabhupada's classes in New Dwarka in Los Angeles, one class after another, was dedicated on Prayers to Queen Kunti. And that was turned into a book. So as he traveled, classes could be so many different things. Then as soon as class was over, what happened next? Prasadam. Prabhupada went upstairs, and as soon as he got upstairs and sat down, servant should be walking in with his breakfast. Breakfast was simple. Fruits, just like in the summertime here we have so many nice fruits and things. Even now there's some nice fruits that are available in Vrindavan. So breakfast was always cut up fruits. Sometimes we would have juices, orange juice. When we were in Australia, first time I didn't even know what to do with it. It was passion fruit. What do they call here passion fruit? Do you have passion fruit here? I don't even think they have. In Hawaii it's called lilikoi. It's a light yellow color, roundish. You cut it open and there's black seeds in it and a gel, orangish gel. And you can eat it just like that with a spoon, but it makes a very delicious juice, passion fruit juice. Very, very good. So, but I didn't know about the juice. So I prepared Prabhupada's breakfast and I would cut his fruits. Some of them, like orange, would just be cut into fours. And the peel was on the orange, and he would just pull the pulp off of the orange. Govinda Dasi, we heard, you might have heard that the other day in class. She was also Prabhupada's servant, preparing meals for him way back in 1967. And she was very dedicated and wanted to do everything the best for Srila Prabhupada. She would peel the grapes, which was a little over the top, we would say. See, some things you just not necessary. Peeling grapes is not a necessary, it's a peel you can eat. Orange peel you don't eat, but grapes you eat the whole grape. But she would peel the grapes. I don't know if he said anything, but I know she told me she peeled his grapes for him. They must have been very interesting. So, always a milk sweet. Every meal, Prabhupada breakfast, lunch, and very often a dinner, some 8 o'clock at night. Prabhupada would call me into the room, but I'm getting ahead. But every meal Prabhupada had a sweet, a milk sweet. And he'd like those milk sweets, sandesh, rasgulla, burfi, all these sweets. Sandesh was favorite, because sandesh you could make it. When I became his servant, I had been shown how to make sandesh by Kirtanananda, who Prabhupada showed him how to cook. So now he was showing me some of the different things, and sandesh was one of them. And Prabhupada told me if you make it properly, it will keep for 1 week. So you could travel with the sandesh, so that way you would always be there. But it was almost not like it was a sweet, it was an actual tonic. Sometimes early in the morning, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd ring his bell, say, bring me a sandesh. And then he would go on translating. So his breakfast, mainly fruits. If it got cold, like when we were in Switzerland, he called me, he said, oh, you can make halava. He said, cold, huh? We get appetite, just like the winter. They say winter is actually very good. They say very good for your health. You sleep well, you eat well. You know, the air quality helps, but the cold, not a bad thing. The body likes the cold. And of course, I wasn't so much doing it, but I know when I joined ISKCON, on your breakfast plate, we always had ginger, sliced ginger, and chickpeas. And it was just soak chickpeas overnight, and they would mix it with a little salt, little pepper. Rumors were out there. Prabhupada said you're only allowed 6 chickpeas because too much protein, not a good thing. They had all these different things. Prabhupada said, but Prabhupada didn't say some of these things. But anyway, this was going on. So then he had his breakfast, and always choki, a little table, right against the wall. And he would sit on the floor on a straw mat. And that was everywhere he went. On the floor, on a straw mat, facing the wall. Sometimes I would bring in his breakfast plate, like in Los Angeles, put it down on the table, and there may be devotees that had come in after the walk or even after class that he invited in. He'd be talking with them. As soon as the breakfast showed up, Prabhupada walked to his plate and he'd say, come on. And he'd hand them something, say, okay, now you can go. Because taking prasadam also seva. That was seva. And when you saw Prabhupada take prasadam, you understood it was seva. It was Krishna prasadam. And he relished prasadam. So then after breakfast, it was a good time for meeting different devotees, managers in the temple, the sannyasis. So now it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. So over the next few hours, there would be different devotees maybe in the room, and Prabhupada would be talking about what was going on at the temple or encouraging them in book distribution, whatever it was, management. So it was like that in the morning. And then I would start preparing his cooker, his 3-tiered cooker, brass cooker, was lined with tin. And every year we would go to India and you would get it re-tinned, because the tin would wear off on the inside, so you would get it re-tinned. It was very common. So I had to start preparing that, make a chapati dough, cut up some vegetables, put them in the center of the cooker, dal cooking on the bottom. Rice would be in a container up at the top, and it would steam. And he showed me how to use the cooker for 3 days. Him and I together were in the kitchen. He showed me how to use the cooker. And every day after that, while the cooker's on the stove, 1.5 hours, sometimes 1 hour, 15 minutes, sometimes almost 2 hours. That cooker's on the stove on a flame, dal, rice, vegetables, cooking. But he showed me how to do it in such, you put them at very low flame because it's going to steam for a long time. Vegetables could turn to mush Your doll could burn. So every day while I'm massaging Prabhupada, all I'm thinking about is the cooker. What's happening with the cooker? Is it going to be okay? Sometimes it might be just next door. In my room would be the kitchen. Sometimes it would be across the street. The kitchen would be across the street. And Prabhupada's in his gamcha. I'm in my gamcha. So this was part of the Ayurvedic. What was on his head? You all know his head got massaged with sandalwood oil. Why? It cools. Prabhupada said you keep a cool head. And the rest of the body? Mustard oil. Prabhupada's oil, mustard oil. And put a good amount of oil in the palm, and then starting with the back, massage. And Prabhupada said those three things kept him alive. You all know. Massage, morning walk, and his Ayurvedic medicine. I mentioned that in the class. He took one medicine every other day. Jigendra Ras from Sadhana Osadalaya Pharmacy. It still exists. You can find it on Google. And the Jigendra Ras had pearls and gold. Gold dust and pearl dust in it. It was very expensive. Even 1972 it was expensive. So I described that. He took that in the morning. So, massage, every day, hour and a half at least. And he told you when to move. This is what it was to be with the spiritual master, at least to be with Srila Prabhupada. You were completely dependent and surrendered onto his instruction. You couldn't even move from one spot of his body to the next until he said it was okay. I know that because I tried moving independently. He let me do it for 3 days. And then the third day he said, you massage until I tell you to stop, not until you tell you to stop. That was the end. Soon as I took my hands off, the third day, threes. I always say everything would happen in threes with Prabhupada. You could say something once, twice, third time, finished. There's no more times. You get 3 chances. And then after his lunch, every day, 2.5 years, sometimes other people in the temple would cook things. Maybe they make samosas or kachori like that. But what I prepared and what he had every day was white rice, basmati rice, dal, and that was usually split mung dal. Could vary, but most of the time it was split mung dal. And chapatis. Of course, nice chapatis, but chapatis have to puff up. Never could bring in a chapati that didn't puff up. And they always had ghee on the top. And he might eat 4 chapatis, 5 chapatis, 6 chapatis. Then he'd... Every time you brought a chapati in, you would offer obeisances. Slide it onto his plate, offer obeisances, and run out, make another chapati, come back. Just in time, he's finishing the 1 chapati with the sabji. You slide that on his plate, you offer obeisances, you run back out, you make another chapati. So this was lunchtime. This was right after the massage. And the whole time I'm just in a gamcha. And then after lunch was nap time. One of the first things Prabhupada told me, he called me into his room. First day, second day I was his servant. We're in Dallas, where he showed me how to cook. He showed me how to do massage properly. He squeezed my leg like this. He actually massaged my leg. So then, after lunch, Prabhupada took a nap. This was my first full day as his servant. Then he rang the bell. So I ran in the room and I was right beside him. the room was such that the door was there, so I came in and I was right beside him. And he looked at me, he said, "Srutakirti, your name is too long." He said, "From now on I'll call you Shruto." I said, "Yes, Prabhupada." He never called me Shruto again. That was the only time he did it. But when he did it, of course, it was humorous, like you're laughing. So it was also funny to me. And what he was doing was making me relax to be his servant. You can't be a good servant if you're nervous. If you're in a state of awe and reverence all the time, you're not going to be able to do anything. So for the first 2 days, he said things just to make me relax. So then he looked at me. He said, "Do you take a nap after lunch?" I said, "No, Prabhupada." I thought he was questioning I was in Maya, sleeping. Nobody took a nap after lunch, right? None of us. We all, Mangal Arti. There was no question. 1972, 3, 4, 5, Mangal Arti every day. 16 rounds every morning. There was no question. You weren't allowed to get sick. I don't ever remember being sick. This is what you did. I said the only time devotees napped was at Bhagavatam class. And then they would nap. And temple commanders had spray bottles. They would wait for you to nod your head and spray you. When Prabhupada said, "Do you take a nap after lunch?" I said, "No, Prabhupada." He said, "Well, I'm an old man." He said, "And when you're old, you can't sleep too much at any one time. So I take a short nap after lunch." And I thought, why is he telling me this? He was God. He was as good as God to us, and he is. A pure devotee of the Lord. He could sleep 24 hours a day. I wouldn't have thought that anything was wrong with it. But he's telling me he takes a 20-minute nap. And I'm thinking, who is this person? Who is this Prabhupada to say something like that? First day you're serving him and he's telling you why he takes a nap. He slept at nighttime 2 hours, 3 hours, and then he would take a nap after lunch. But he told me, and that, just him saying that, and that humility, again, it just did something to me. It just gave me more appreciation to be able to serve him. And it just made me wonder, who is he? Who is this humble people, thousands of people falling down on the ground in front of him all the time? And he would walk like royalty and at the same time appear so humble. Who can do that? At the same time, look like a king and be humble. But that's what he did. Offering obeisances before the deities every morning. And you never heard him. He would get down, 75, 80. He'd get down, you never heard him make a sound. Like some of us do when we offer obeisances in the morning. Greeting the deities or at Mangalar, you get down and, we all feel aches and pains. But he just did everything so gracefully, so wonderfully. Everything he did just made you love him more. Everything he did, it increased your attachment to him. And that's the business of a pure devotee. That's the business of the spiritual master. To show you how to love. Our whole business is develop our love of Krishna. We've been hearing all these classes every day. The class I gave from Chaitanya Charitamrita about how you want to understand philosophically all the philosophy and the Lord and how creation goes, how all these things happen, so you can help develop your love of Krishna. But to develop love of Srila Prabhupada was not a difficult thing. He made it very easy. That's also the business of the spiritual master. He makes the connection. So then after that nap, 15 minutes, and now it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I told you, Prabhupada, all morning now, remember, he's translating 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Then he's on his morning walk, he's chanting rounds, he's discussing philosophy with his disciples. Then he goes to the temple and we have class. Then he's meeting with the devotees. So that's the whole morning, up until 1 o'clock. So now at afternoon time, what does he do? Same thing? She knows. She knows. What's he doing in the afternoon? Take a guess. Reading his books. He reads his books. He would get the harmonium and sit down and start chanting bhajans. He would chant his rounds. His afternoon was his bhajan when he had time to do his own bhajan. What he was telling us to do, every day telling us to do the same thing. He was doing it. No one had to tell him to do it. He was relishing. Sometimes I'd hear the harmonium from his room. Whenever I heard the harmonium, I'd run into the room, offer obeisances, because I knew. And then he'd look at me and go, get the cartels. So I could play cartels. And I would just sit there and play cartels, and Prabhupada would chant. I generally didn't know what he was chanting. I didn't even try, but I just wanted to be there during that time. So that was the afternoon. Prabhupada was, I say he had, what I saw 2 very distinct personas. Personas. There was in the temple around the devotees, he was our founder Acharya, he was our spiritual master, he was our teacher, everything. But when he went into his room, he was a devotee. He was just a devotee of Krishna, like he was training us to be. And he enjoyed reading his books. I would find them. And he never read, I never saw him read anything except his books. Every room, it would have a bookshelf, little bookshelf. I was with him in 1972, all the way into 1975. So I got to see that bookshelf grow from 3, 4 books, 8 books, 12 books, 15 books, 40 books. Chaitanya Charitamrita came out, boom, 17 books, just like that. And they were the books on his shelf. There was no magazines, no newspapers, his books. And he would just grab a book and read. Didn't have pencil and paper, wasn't checking any. He was relishing reading his books. As he told us, not my words. Just read this morning, one lady said, what makes your Bhagavad-Gita so special? He said, it's not my Bhagavad-Gita. He said, it's Bhagavad-Gita as it is. He says, it's Krishna's words as he presents it. He said, no interpretation. He said, that's the difference. It's just what Krishna gives. So Prabhupada would read that. He told us, when Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, he's not just speaking to Arjuna, he's speaking to you, speaking to me. He's speaking to us personally. This is Bhagavad Gita as it is. So that was the afternoon. If we were in a proper place like Hawaii, Juhu, after his nap, what was the first thing he did? Hawaii, Juhu, Dab. He'd walk out of his room, Dab. He said very deep voice. Whenever he took a little rest, nap, his voice, when he woke up, it was very deep. So the one time in Juhu, and I usually knew, but if he would walk, he wouldn't say anything to me, just Dab. And I'd run. And he has a gold straw, golden straw. We have that straw here in his cupboard. And a gold straw. So we'd have the Dab coconut ready and put the gold straw in it. So that was right after right after nap, 2 in the afternoon, every day, every day. When he stayed in Hawaii, Guru Kripa, Yasodananda, they were there at that time. Guru Kripa, he was the GBC. It was a brahmachari ashram. It was about half the size of this room. No brahmacharis were in it. There was a mountain of coconuts in there for Prabhupada when he came and stayed there. They would climb the trees, get all the coconuts. A mountain of coconuts was in the room. So I didn't say one thing, because we're speaking Ayurveda too. When Prabhupada took lunch, Prabhupada he told me so many different things, different times. So what is the best plate you can have to take your prasadam, to have your prasadam on? What is the most opulent plate? First class plate? Banana leaf. Yes, banana leaf is the most opulent plate there is a banana leaf. And then what's next? Marble, onyx, and then gold, and then silver, and then it goes down to what we use. Plastic, clay. But yeah, banana leaf is most auspicious, best thing you could eat from. So he would say these things. He would be there and he would just say, just tell you. And of course, the best thing to cook on. Cow dung patties, best thing you can cook on. Then of course coal and wood. Somewhere the worst thing is like electric. Electric's like gas, but electric, that's like the worst. So that was afternoon time. And then in the evening, early evening, again he would do, this was more like darshan time. Not so much management with his disciples, but more like open darshan, especially in India. I started with Prabhupada, of course, in the USA. And any time you were in the USA, we were very restricted from seeing Srila Prabhupada. Management would always say, don't write him. He has to translate. Don't distract him from his translating. Don't write him. Don't ask questions. Don't present problems. You'll give him a headache. So we were trained like this, not to ever disturb him. Never touch his feet. Prabhupada would offer his obeisances in the temple. Imagine offering dandavats and the devotees are just looking at those lotus feet, looking at them, but they knew you couldn't touch them. Sometimes devotees would. So then, especially in India, he would give very open darshan, because in India in the 70s, all through the 70s, very, very austere. Devotees had no nice places to live, no proper drinking water, generally didn't have mosquito nets. Everyone was getting malaria, getting typhoid, dengue, just like now. So all these things were there, dysentery. So the only thing Prabhupada could give them was himself. And that's what he did. Anyone would come in the room, they could sit down and Prabhupada would give darshan. I remember very first time in Vrindavan, I was surprised because very few people were allowed on the morning walk in the West, were allowed in Prabhupada's room for darshan. But here, anyone in the temple, Prabhupada would just walk out the door, he'd be on his morning walk. And you could be right next to him, right behind him. But you always had to be attentive. Prabhupada would walk very fast and he could stop in an instant to say something. And if people behind him weren't paying attention, it could be very dangerous for your spiritual life. Sometimes people bumped into him, tread on his foot. Prabhupada looked once. He said, this is very bad. No, it's very bad. Yeah. Attentive, that's what I say. To be servant, attentive, always attentive. To be devotee in Krishna consciousness, it means always attention. We have to pay attention. So then the afternoon like that would go on into the early evening. And then many, many times in the evening, 7, 8 o'clock, Prabhupada would ring the bell. I'd go in and he'd tell me what to cook for him. And generally, the puris would be involved. And of course, everything was cooked in ghee. I was the only person that had oil, because I had mustard oil for massage. It was also one of the instructions, Ayurveda. Oil for the outside of the body, ghee for the inside of the body. Every temple cooked in ghee. Even they had no money. Somehow or other we could afford, and we made our ghee. We'd buy butter. There were different processes. You could make it on the stove on a low flame. Some devotees knew how to make it in the oven. They put it in the oven at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. But you always had ghee. And here in India, Prabhupada wanted the devotees had ghee. He had Madhvisa from Australia. Australia with lots of dairy products, lots of cows pasturing ground. And Prabhupada had Madhvisa pay his BBT bill by shipping ghee to India so that the devotees could have cow ghee, because he didn't trust anything that was made in India. Just like today, same thing. Never know what they put in there. So he had it shipped so the devotees living here could have ghee. That's how important ghee is. So I might say one night, like puris and potato eggplant sabji. That was one of his favorite, potato eggplant sabji. 8 o'clock at night, same thing, bring in one puri. Potato eggplants there, sandesh is there, or rasgulla, or burfi. Then put the one puri, then go back, make another puri. Do the same thing, back and forth until he says, okay, that's enough. What was I going to say? And the puris, of course, everything now I see is all people do is complain, on social media. Don't eat this. White flour, no refined white flour, it's poison. No white sugar, it's poison. Don't use ghee, also poison. These were everything we took every day. Puris, sabji, everything cooked in ghee. Puris were white flour, no wheat flour. It was puri meant maida. That was a puri. Before me, his servant, he was very health conscious individual. So he brought Prabhupada one day. He thought he's eating all cooked vegetables, cooked in ghee, chapatis, white rice, also no good for you. White rice, poison. Everything's poison. So he thought, I'll make Prabhupada nice. He made him nice salad, sprouts, alfalfa sprouts. In the 70s, alfalfa sprouts was like the thing. Put alfalfa sprouts on anything and everything. So he made nice salad, and along with his meal, his lunch, and Prabhupada ate it. So then he became very enlivened, the servant, thought, oh good, I can give him more this raw carrots and cucumbers and alfalfa sprouts and this and that. So he came in again the next day, and then at the end of lunch, Prabhupada said, that's all right. He said, you don't have to give me this. He said, I've been eating what I want my whole life. I'm not going to stop now. Govinda Dasi, 1967, she tried to put Prabhupada called it starvation diet. He was giving her steamed vegetables, no spice, no ghee, no oil, No nothing, just steamed, boiled veg. We have here, sometimes for the different people that are not well, boiled veg. Prabhupada said starvation diet, because she was sick often. Prabhupada said she'll be sick in the spiritual world. She was always complaining. So then what else? So then we're approaching the evening, and always hot milk with a little sugar. It's how he showed me how to do it. I never put cardamom in it, never put turmeric in it, never added anything else other than sugar. And sometimes he would ask for honey. But generally, it was just milk with sugar. And he never said I put in too much sugar, never said I didn't put enough sugar in. Whatever I did, he accepted it, and he drank it. Boiling hot, we learned, 3 times. You watch the foam, the milk rise 3 times. And you would bring it in that hot to Prabhupada. And he would take it with a spoon, because you couldn't even hold the cup. So he'd just sip it with a spoon. And he said, you're eating it. You ate milk. Milk was food, wasn't a beverage. It was food. But he said if it's not hot enough, then it doesn't digest properly and turns to urine. So he wanted it very, very hot. So that was the evening. And then, again, a sweet. Always a sweet. And if sweets meant Bengali sweets. There was no other sweet. Sweet meant Bengali sweets. That's what it was. Always the same things. It's getting close to the end. Anyone have any questions, comments? Thank you all for finding your way to the conference room.
So what are Bengali sweets?
Well, like we said, sandesh, rasgulla, rasmalai. What are the others? Gulab jamun, burfi. What's the cashew?
Anything from China is
Yeah. In Calcutta, they had the best sweets. We'd go to K.C. Das in Calcutta. And that was considered prasadam. Sweets, it was automatically prasadam. You get them, they put them in Prabhupada's room, and he always distributed prasadam. Anyone came in the room must get prasadam. That's part of Vaishnava culture. You're not getting any here tonight. No one arranged. This morning we had prasadam. They arranged, we distributed prasadam. But they're the Bengali sweets. In New Dwarka, of course in the West, Americans are always very creative. We have that creative ability. So one day, they were making these sweets for Rukmini Dwarkadish. And I saw this sweet was made with Quaker puffed rice. Quaker, right? Quaker. It's not even puffed rice like we have here. It's a different kind of puffed rice. And it was in a cereal box. So for time, because Americans always trying to do things quicker, faster, better, faster, save time. So they were making these sweets for the deities. And these sweets contained this Quaker oats puffed rice, and then it had raisins and some ground nuts, a little of this and a little of that, peanut butter to help bind it up. So I saw the Mahaprasadam for the deities, that's what it was. So I took 2 of them. So when I gave Prabhupada his lunch, I put 2 sandesh and 2 of these sweets in the bowl. Because I knew what would happen. Prabhupada knew, I had some ideas what would happen if I did something. So he said, what are these? I said, oh, Prabhupada, they're deity sweets. He said, what is this concoction? He says, it's nonsense, he said. He said, I've given you nice Bengali sweets. That's what he said. Sandesh, Rasgula, Rasmalai, Burfi. He said, why are they doing like this? It's terrible sweets. It still goes on. Different places, they have these, trying to save time. As all we have is time, eternal time. We don't have anything else but time to do things for Krishna. That's all we do. There's no question of getting done so you can go do something else. There is nothing else for a devotee. We just do service. That's what we're trying to do. So he had me call her. I said, don't. She was the head pujari. She was training people up all around the USA, Shalavati. She's in New Vrindavan now, like 93 years old she is. And Prabhupada said, no. He said, you can't do that. He said, give the deities, they're like milk sweets. Another time she told me something she did, because she knew how I served Prabhupada lunch. I told her, they would ask, everybody would, what'd you do? What did Prabhupada say? Every time I walked out the door, it was the same. What did Prabhupada say? What's Prabhupada doing? That's all anyone wanted to know. They just wanted to know, what's he doing? What did he just say? I heard he was talking. What did he say to you? I said, I don't know. So I told her, I bring Prabhupada his lunch, I give him one chapati, I run back and forth, chapatis. So she thought, what a great idea. So she puts the deity plates on the altar in New Dwarka. 3 plates, Jagannath, Gaurnitai, Rumini Dwarkadish. And she puts 1 puri on each plate. Then she leaves the altar, she goes back, she makes some nice hot puris, brings them in and puts them on the deity plate, and runs back out again. So she says, Srutakirti. I thought, oh gee. I just knew this concoction. This is Westerners, concoction. So I said, Prabhupada. So I told him, Prabhupada said, you Americans, he said, always changing. Tell her you can't do that. They're eating. You can't go in and out of the room. You put the plates in and you leave the room 15, 20 minutes. You let them take prasadam. Not that you can go back and forth. Yes, Prabhupada, I'll tell her. So then I went and I had to tell. She just wanted to do nice service, but with the deity, who knows what Prabhupada said. He said, our movement will be destroyed by how we neglect the deities, by how we change the service to the deities from what he gave us. He said that can destroy our movement. So important, the standard of deity worship. Everything he gave us was so important. He trained us in a very special way how he wanted us to practice Krishna consciousness. It's our standard. We don't have to try to jump over it with other ideas, other fasts, other rules and regulations. He gave us just what he wanted to do. And the most important thing, chanting your rounds, following the principles, and do something to help spread this movement. Anything, connection with the temple, you're helping spread this Krishna consciousness movement. That's what he wanted. Not that we sit down and just have kumbaya, nice, peaceful. No peace. No peace and quiet. In Juhu, we get it all the time. Please bless me. The man said, Prabhupada looked at him. You want my blessings? Please, your blessings. He said, you want my blessings? He said, you take my headache. You want my blessings. In other words, you do something. Otherwise, what does this give blessings? What are you giving me? I should give you blessings. Take my headache, Prabhupada said. So many troubles. Sankirtan devotee, Prabhupada, how can I please you the most? He was a book distributor. So he knew Prabhupada was going to say, you distribute my books. Prabhupada looked at him, he said, you develop your love of Krishna. A GBC asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how can I please you the most? What did Prabhupada say? I'm trying to think of the exact word he said. But you struggle for me. So it was individual, depending on who the person is. You don't just take something out of thin air. Prabhupada said like this, Prabhupada told me never to go to Mangal Artik, because I went one day in New Dwarka just to be with my friends. And that one day he rang the bell. Never rang the bell 4:30 in the morning, but he knew I wasn't there. So then the Sanskrit editor came down, tapped me. Prabhupada wants to see you now. I was a Mangal Artik. I came in, I'm offering obeisances, he's already yelling. I've been ringing the bell for hours, where were you? I said, oh Prabhupada, I said I went to Mangal Artik. You have no business going to Mangal Artik. He said, what if I need something? He said, you have to be in your room 24 hours a day. You people, you want to be personal servant. Try sitting in a room 24 hours a day when you're 21 years old. See how hard that is. It's impossible. It was impossible. But that's what we did. One servant after another. Some lasted 6 months, some 1 year. Some were a little luckier, lasted a little longer. But it was very difficult. Prabhupada said, you stay in your room if I need something. So I was in Maya because I went to Mangal Artik. Only person in Maya in the whole of ISKCON because I went to Mangal Artik. They're not rituals. We're not doing rituals. We're serving. We're serving their Guru and Krishna. Once he said to me, what is the difficulty? He said, I'm sitting in my room all day, you're sitting in your room all day. He said, we go out for a walk. He's talking us together. He said, we both go out for a morning walk. He said, then we come back and sit in our rooms. I said, Prabhupada, you're Haridas Thakur. I said, it's very difficult. He was so wonderful. He could just sit in his room. When he came to India, he didn't have his yellow fever card. He had to sit in that room in the quarantine for a week with no one. He just had to sit there. A devotee can be anywhere. Right? We tell a devotee can be anywhere, do anything. So it's 6:30. Kirtan has started. You're all free to go. Anyone has another question?
You've almost answered but I'll just put it. So, the pastor, you said that how Prabhupada exhibited the qualities which attracted all the disciples towards him. I also wanted to understand that what qualities did the disciples exhibit which we should inculcate to attract the same mercy which you all do.
A devotee said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, everyone loves you. Prabhupada said, that's because I love everyone. A devotee, we have to learn how to love everyone. And you can only do that when you understand, when you have realization. Everyone, part and parcel of Krishna. There's no difference. Different bodies, different karmas. We all, pure devotee wants everyone to go back to Godhead with him. Prabhupada wanted to make the whole world Krishna conscious. That's why he left Vrindavan. So often I see these people writing, oh, I was in Vrindavan 1974, the silky sands and the Parikram Marg, and there were no cars, and there was no this, and there was no that. Yes, I was there for that too. But now it's different. Because Prabhupada brought everyone to Vrindavan. So you're going to complain that he made the whole world Krishna conscious. You can't win. Whatever. People want to complain. They complain about everything. So many people come to Vrindavan now. I can't go there. It smells. It smelt in 1972. It didn't smell any better. Hogs were running around eating all the stool, though, so maybe things were a little bit better back then. Camels were there. Vultures were up in the trees. But it's still Vrindavan. It's no different. Everyone here, they died or liberated. The animals are all liberated. That's what Prabhupada said. There's no difference. Same complaints were made in 1972. People are starving, they're sleeping in the streets. Prabhupada said, show me someone starving. Vrindavan, you go 5 minutes in any direction, you can get prasadam at some temple. Nobody's starving here in Vrindavan. And when you're sleeping, who cares? You don't know what you're sleeping on the floor, you're sleeping in $2,000 mattress. It's all the same when you're sleeping. This is how Prabhupada spoke. But it's Prabhupada's fault. Vrindavan's like it is. So you want to complain, you complain to Prabhupada that he changed the whole world, brought so many people to Vrindavan. Whatever they're coming here for. They come and they take darshan, Krishna Balaram. 25,000 people a day take Kitri Prasadam. This is what Prabhupada wanted. He'd be delighted to hear every day 50,000 people are coming to this temple. He said that's all they have to do. Come, offer obeisances, take a little prasadam. If they don't do anything else in this life, they've made progress. Who can have such progress? Here in Vrindavan, same dust is here. And if you want some dust from a long time ago, you can go down in the hole that they're digging by where the Krishna hall was. That's older dust. It's older dust. They're going to go down 10 meters. Who knows what they might find down there 10 meters deep in the dust. But this is Vrindavan, and we love Vrindavan, whatever it may be. We are here because we love being here in Vrindavan, as opposed to anywhere. Well, we say we were living on the beach in Hawaii. I never want to go back there again. Waste of time. Wasting my life sitting there looking at the ocean waves. What good is it? Here in Vrindavan, so much service. There's so much service, morning till night, non-stop. I remember I couldn't wait for Kartik. Then halfway through Kartik, I couldn't wait for Kartik to be over. And I thought, then I can rest. How long? It's been over 10 days. I still haven't got a chance to rest. So much service here in Vrindavan. This is Vrindavan. We love it. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.